OK, let's talk about schools now, because many parents in England this morning are waking up to the prospect of at least another 5 weeks of homeschooling ahead of them. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that schools won't fully reopen until at least March the 8th. Breakfast's Graham Satchell has been getting reaction from a few of those families juggling learning in lockdown.
That's Sam I am, that's Sam I am.
The news that schools in England won't open again until March at the earliest, a bitter blow for Sam. Her younger daughter in particular has really struggled.
My daughter in her online PSHE class had to review how she was feeling at the moment, and she's 6 and her top concerns were, I worry I'm never going to see my family again. And then her second was, I feel sad when I hear how many people die. And for a 6-year-old, for those to be the two first things that they're thinking about is really, it's material. It's material that, how much of an impact that is having on her mental health.
We're just sat at the kitchen table working because we haven't done any schoolwork today.
Working families are really, really, really struggling. It's like that emotional side of it is huge, and we've got the practical.
The present that I give her.
And once again, Vicky is interrupted. Vicky's a single mum with 4 school-aged children, juggling family, home and running her own business.
It's all getting a bit tense, and then so it's like, okay, now I'm thinking, right, stop work now, I'll get back to it at 7, 8, and then I'll be working till midnight to get it all done. And this burnout, we're all going to reach burnout if we all carry on like this. I don't know what the answer is though. I'm not saying open schools. I just think we need some direction and we need some hope on the horizon.
Good afternoon, thanks for joining us.
The hope had been that schools in England would open again after the February half-term, but with cases still high and the vaccine programme nowhere near complete, this from the Prime Minister.
We hope to begin opening schools on Monday, March the 8th.
So what about schools in the rest of the UK? Northern Ireland is reviewing its plans today. Wales will make an announcement on Friday, Scotland early next week. But the likelihood is schools in all 4 nations will remain closed for most students.
OK, let's talk now to Neil Renton, who's the head teacher at Harrogate Grammar School. Neil, thanks very much for joining us on BBC News today. Schools, I think it's fair to say, have had to do a number of about-turns in their planning as government decisions have changed. Do you, in the first instance, believe that schools will be able to start opening up to more pupils from the 8th of March?
Well, I think it's a very tentative message, isn't it, that's been given, we hope, from the 8th of March. So we believe as a school that we could open then if all the science is saying that it is safe to do so, but we will need that time to be able to communicate effectively with our community to build confidence so that we know that the children can be brought back safely. And we don't know as yet what the plan is for that return and how many children will be allowed to come back. Will it look like the return that took place in June when we opened at that point?
OK, so there's a lot to know yet in terms of how you can plan for the return of pupils, whether that's some pupils on a rota basis or everyone. Before we talk about that in a bit more detail, though, how is the school community coping with lockdown learning this time round?
So I think it feels different this time round in that there's been a great deal of learning in the profession and adapting. So I feel very, very privileged in our community to work with a great staff and a great student body where we've been able to deliver lessons throughout the school timetable and really keep that connection with the students. We recognise that it's not like having the children in school. Schools are special places to be with the culture that children experience. So we're trying to replicate that as close as we can. So we've just been really, really trying our best. One of our challenges really now is are the children having too much screen time, and is that really affecting further their well-being?
I think there was an idea that live lessons at one point was the most desirable thing that you could achieve, but obviously there are questions around that, aren't there? And with pieces of the puzzle missing when the return happens, what sort of planning can you put in place at this stage?
Well, it's really difficult. I mean, the good message that we've had is that we're giving a little bit more time. So there does feel to be a change. That notice that we've had that we're going to have 2 weeks additional time to be able to plan it is really helpful. At this stage, it's really difficult to plan for because we're a large school of 2,000 children. Is it 1 year group? Is it going to be half year groups? So it's really, really difficult to plan other than to look at what we've done in the past and think, if that were to happen, this is how we would do this again. So all we can
and you've got a testing, sorry to interrupt, Neil, you've got a testing programme for students, presumably, or some level of testing that will go on.
So testing at the moment we've got in place is just for staff. So we've tested 77 staff on Tuesday. We're worried about mass testing because with 2,000 children, it will take a week to do one test. We're doing testing for 6 hours every day. So that's going to be a real challenge to bring them all back at once when you've got to get through all those tests. So it is set up, but there are challenges there.
Talk to me about vaccinations. Obviously, a lot of discussion about whether teachers as a profession and teaching staff, school staff, should be vaccinated perhaps during the February half term. Is that something that you and your colleagues would welcome?
I think colleagues would welcome that because it would give them reassurance, but I think teachers know that we've got to wait in line and there's a clear programme that's got to be followed. So I think teachers are very much, we would be reassured, and I think that's the key thing is we don't know how this new variant is going to affect large communities of schools. So if that is one measure, that would be helpful, but whether that's possible, I just don't know.
OK, Neil Renton, good to talk to you. Neil Renton there, head teacher at Harrogate Grammar School. OK, it is time for a look at the weather now at 9:28, and here's